I was born in October 1992. I was born here in El Paso. For the first couple of maybe like 3-4 years of my life, I lived in Juarez. My parents were both born and raised in Juarez, but I guess opportunities brought them over to El Paso. So I have very little recollection of my time in Juarez. But I've been here in El Paso ever since I was like 3 years old. I grew up here first in like the area by like Escarate Park, and then we moved to the east side. And then from there I've always been in the east side. I've elementary, everything from elementary to college, I've been in El Paso. And I have two sisters. And I grew up with them. I'm 4 years apart from my middle sister and almost 8 years apart from my younger sister. I'm the oldest of three. I grew up with my mom and my dad. They were together for up until my mom passed. My mom passed in 2010. I was 17 years old when she passed. But yeah, with them I grew up with both of them at home, and it was a pretty good time that I had. You know, I don't have like bad memories of my childhood. I think for the most part, it was a good childhood. Well, when I was little, I was a very thin child. I never struggled with my weight up until maybe I was like 7, which was around the time that my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And I think, you know, thinking back, I do think that not really understanding, I did start relying more on snacking to kind of not feel the pressure of the things that were happening in my household. You know, because with my mom being sick, things started getting a little more difficult. You know, my parents went down from 2 salaries to 1, so there was more tension. And on top of her being sick, you know, the money problems were causing fights, things like that. And I do remember a lot of that. So I do think at that point in time was when I started eating more and I started gaining a lot of weight. And I never really thought much of my weight from like 8 to maybe 13 years old. I was just eating and I didn't gain a lot of weight. But you know, as you start getting older, you know, people start getting meaner, and if you don't look a certain way, kids tease you. So I did start getting teased for my weight. And that's when I started becoming a little more conscious of the fact that I was overweight. But it didn't stop me from being overweight. You know, I did try a couple times to lose weight, but I never really was successful at that. I stayed pretty heavy ever since like 8 years old up until maybe when I was 20. I was going to UTEP, so you know, you've been to UTEP. It could be a long walk from one place to the other, and I've always been a person that didn't, up until that point, I didn't move much. It was just like from home to my car to school, and you know, high schools are pretty small, so it's not a lot of walking, and then back to my car, back home. I never ran, I never exercised, so going to UTEP did start showing me that I was out of shape and having to walk. I could barely make it to class sometimes, and I couldn't breathe on a couple occasions of like the exercise I had to do, especially up the hills, like to the education building. So I told myself I want to make a change. And I had my godmother, I guess I shared it with her, and she's like, you should come with me to this place where they put balines. I don't know if you know what balines are. But they're little like, kind of like earrings, but they're magnetic, and they put them in your ear. They put like 7 or 8 of them, and they're supposed to like, I don't know if it works or not, or if it's true, but they're supposed to like help you maintain equilibrium with like the energies in your body, and that helps you supposedly lose weight. And she took me there, and that guy did it at home. He was like, he had done some nutrition work, but I don't think he was like 100% legit, so he just practiced out of his house, and word of mouth, people would go, and he would put those things on you, and he gave you like a special plan, like for you to eat throughout the week. And he told you like, if you do this right, like you'll lose weight real fast, which I did. You know, they put that on, I went, followed the diet really strict. In the first week I lost like 11 pounds, and then within like 3 months I had lost like 40 pounds. from there on, I did try to become more active. Within the next 4 years, I lost overall like 80 pounds from the moment that I started to like those 5 years. I trained for a half marathon. I became really active. I started swimming. I started doing a lot more things. And it was in particular, I think I did it at first because I wanted to be able to like not feel ugly when I was moving. But then it reached the point where it became a little more vanity, I want to say. At that point in time too, when I started trying to come out. And there's a lot of stigmas around, how you should look, how you should present yourself. You want to start dating, people are picky. They want you to look a certain way. You want to feel thinner. You want to not feel rejection. So I did start working a lot towards that, thinking like I want to fit in certain clothes. All my life I had seen classmates fitting into Hollister shirts, Abercrombie, like all these brand names, and dressing a certain way. I was never able to do that. And I'm trying to find a balance where, like I said earlier, growing up, I was heavy. And, as I started coming to terms with wanting to start dating, and opening up myself to the idea of being out there, it was hard for me. I felt like it would be hard, and I didn't want to do it being the weight that I was at that point in time. So I started like pushing myself to be better and be more fit and try to look like what you want to see on Instagram, what you want to see on Grindr, what you want to see on all those apps. And I did. Thankfully, I don't feel like I was unhealthy about it in the terms of like that I developed an eating disorder, but I did deprive myself for a long time of eating. But yeah, I think that's pretty much, a summary of my journey from being a pretty, thin standard kid. And like I said, from the root of my mom's problems and the things at home, starting eating a little more, and then it was just hard to catch control of myself. And I was like that, like I said, until about 20 years old.